No mai, haere mai, ki whangarei Whangarei District 9th of February. Welcome to council members, councillors. As I'm speaking, I'm going to be removing my mask, but it is good protocol to be wearing a mask when you're not speaking, so if we could all follow that protocol, thank you. We have some late arrival apologies from Councillors Cooper and Joe Lightly. Has anybody heard from Councillor Peters? So I'll ask that somebody move those late arrival apologies be received. Councillor Popwood has moved, Councillor Fox is seconding, those in favour aye. Aye. Against, carried. Councillors, just a reminder that our meeting today is being live streamed. And the two items on our agenda, the first being the hearing for our proposed amendments to the Animals Bylaw. The copies of all the submissions have been provided to councillors both in an electronic version and also printed copies have been available, and I've got a stack of them just to show the stack that they were. I'd also like to note that there is a supplementary report that will be on our agenda item 4.2, covering an emergency grant to Whangarei District Council to assist the Tongan community with relief efforts. We'll be discussing that after we've had the speakers. So item 4.1, the hearing of our proposed amendments to the Animals Bylaw, and then move and second for the recommendations that are on page 1 of our agenda. Councillor Ellis is moving, Councillor Connaught is seconding. The recommendations are that the council receives the submissions on the proposed amendments to the Animals Bylaw and B, hears the verbal submissions. I'll put that motion. Those in favour aye. Aye. Against, carried. So just procedurally, some housekeeping. Our submitters will generally be taken in the order that they have arrived to the council chamber, and as we just for the knowledge of our submitters, you'll be given a 5-minute time frame, and Carolyn, Ayatollah Carolyn, will ring the bell at 5 minutes. The main thing for submitters is to speak to, we would have read your submissions, so we just ask for any additional points or clarification that you may wish to give to us, and I will ask any councillors if they have any questions of submitters. I can see people on our screen and nodding, so they're hearing and understanding that part of the process as well. Just a reminder, of course, today is not a decision-making forum for the hearings. It is just a hearings process. I'm sorry, Vince, I don't understand what you're trying to do.
Sorry, shut the doors. There's noise.
It is an open meeting, so we generally leave our doors open in a public open meeting.
There's sort of like a car here. The noise coming through this way.
Thank you. Distracted. Thanks, Danielle. And I think that's all the housekeeping matters that I need to cover off. Hopefully you've got on your tables the list of the submitters who will be speaking to us today. And as I say, I'll be calling them forward as they have arrived. So any questions before I start? So we'll start with our first submitter, Judy Plan. Welcome, Judy. Judy's submission is in volume 12, page 54. And a very warm welcome to Judy.
Thank you very much. Kia ora koutou. This is Sophie, aged 2 years, 2 months. I was found in a box on the side of the road with my kittens. Very luckily, someone stopped and found us and brought us to safety at the SPCA. This is the reason I'm speaking to you today. If the mother cat had been desexed, those kittens would not have been born, and the mother cat and her kittens abandoned. If the cat had been microchipped, the owner would have been promptly identified. These cats and kittens are victims of cruelty, and their irresponsible owner has created a nuisance and additional work and expense for the community. We need to promote responsible cat ownership in the Whangarei District. I support options 3 and 4 in the statement of proposal. I'm asking Council to introduce new bylaws mandating the desexing, microchipping and registering of all companion cats by 6 months of age, a once in the cat's lifetime cost, which Council is able to do under Section 146 of the LGA. I disagree with the reasons given by Council concerning the appropriateness of a new bylaw on page 10 and 11 of the statement proposal. To date, 4 New Zealand councils have determined that under Section 155, a bylaw is the most appropriate way of addressing the nuisance and health and safety problems created by cats and kittens of irresponsible owners. Council staff have said there have been no legal challenges to date and minimal costs to their councils. The current bylaw needs to be amended because it is not controlling the nuisance and public health and safety issues created by cats and kittens of irresponsible owners. Under Section 145, this council has a statutory mandate to make bylaws to protect the public from nuisance and to protect, promote and maintain public health and safety. As I've documented in my submission, these unwanted and abandoned cats of irresponsible owners are creating a huge range of problems, work, expense and anxiety for many residents and professionals in our community. In the current long-term plan, Council states that they listen to the people and care for the environment and are guided by what our community tells us is most important to them. This is a wonderful opportunity to work collaboratively with the people of Whangarei to help resolve a real and long-standing problem with abandoned cats and a fantastic legacy to leave for the community. Kei te waka, nei tātou katoa. We are all in this waka together. For the last 10 years, I've used my spare time to help people in the community with nuisance cats and kittens. I have been invited into many homes and made to feel welcome. It has been a privilege and a humbling experience. It has also been sad to see the cats and kittens' unnecessary suffering and the anxiety, problems and extra expense created for residents. He tangata pai. The people in Whangarei are good and compassionate. They care about these abandoned cats, they care about the birds, and they care about the environment and our unique biodiversity. They are also weary from the COVID pandemic. For the last 2 years, there have been ongoing pet food shortages in supermarkets, and many are struggling to feed their own pets. Residents are angry with irresponsible cat owners. They are tired of the same problems created for cats and by cats, and want Council to help prevent the health, safety and nuisance problems as mandated under Section 145. By introducing bylaws mandating the desexing and microchipping of all companion cats under Section 146, the Council is giving a strong message to the community that they support responsible cat ownership, value our environment, want to protect our unique biodiversity and care about the residents of Whangarei. There is no counter-argument to mandatory desexing and microchipping of companion cats, only benefits for all. By helping the cats and kittens, you help the people, and by helping the people, you help the cats and kittens and our native biodiversity. All I am asking from Council is to please work collaboratively with us. This is a community problem that can only be solved with a community effort. The community would very much appreciate your help and support, so cats in the future aren't treated like Sophie and her kittens. Ko te tumanako me hai tahi tātou. Let us do this together. Manaki te katoa, be kind to all. Kia ora.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. Any questions? Absolutely.
First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you for your interest and passion on this issue. I was wondering, when you did, I mean, you've said you've been out into people's homes, spoken to a lot of people. I'm just wondering if you've covered kind of most of the areas in the city, or were you kind of focused just on particular suburbs?
No, but every suburb of Whangarei, except like places like Rukampa, Waikato, so all the sort of central, as far as on the right, more Tikitonga, all those areas. I mean, it's a community problem, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, even the region, Kensington. I mean, the people that are probably a lot affected by this are elderly people. They kindly feed the animal that turns up and they multiply and they create lots of problems. Thinking of an elderly lady who's 88, I mean, I helped her. She just fed her own cat, and then the stray cats came in, and then terrorised her own cat, and then her own cat was spraying and defecating on her own property. She's 88, she's going blind, she's hearing impaired and walks with a Zimmer frame. I mean, she needs support. It's just not fair on people like that, and she's not alone.
So just on that question of where the issue is, do you get a sense that it's also kind of a similar issue out in the districts as well, I mean, as far as the rural areas?
Yeah, it's about irresponsible owners. All stray cats and feral cats come from pet cats. That's not debatable, and it is everywhere. I've been to probably easily 100 properties in Whangarei in the last decade, easily. And then, of course, then you get to know the neighbours and other people within that small group. So, and then you talk to Whānau, and the Whānau takes your phone around and it sort of goes on and on. So we need to regulate the owner. The owner needs to be sex microchip and be responsible. Why are we doing this for the cat? Nothing for the cats, but we've got all these regulations for dogs. You know, we expect dog owners to be responsible, and why don't we expect cat owners to be responsible?
Councillors to present the submission on behalf of the council. My name is Don McKenzie and I'm the Group Manager for Biosecurity for the Norfolk Regional Council. I've been authorised by Council and the Chair of the Biosecurity Working Party to provide this verbal submission. In addition to the submission, Council has already provided that you have in front of you. My qualifications include a Bachelor of Forestry Science and Postgraduate Diploma in Biosecurity and Conservation with distinction, and in 2017 I was granted the Minister's National Award for Services to Biosecurity. And I have a little bit, close to 40 years of experience working in the field of pest management. The Regional Council's submission focuses on the options for improved management of lost and abandoned cats, and also the issue of protecting and promoting public safety. And we support the options 3 or 4 that are set out in the document. Firstly, I wish to acknowledge the Council's contribution that it has already made to encouraging voluntary care of lost and abandoned cats, and better cat welfare through its grants to the SPCA. However, we suggest that voluntary measures won't win this one, and that these measures now need to be combined with regulation and further education. That combination of regulation, voluntary measures, education, we think is a formula that would turn the tide in what we see as a current kind of increase in numbers of lost and abandoned cats, undermining our community efforts to restore biodiversity in urban and rural areas. Because we know that lost and abandoned cats can behave like wild cats, and they survive without human intervention or care. In doing so, they can impact on native wildlife, but also carry diseases such as toxoplasmosis. We believe that regulation would help reduce the number of lost and abandoned cats becoming wild. Mandatory microchipping, neutering and registration of cats older than 6 months will improve cat welfare and lessen the risks of cats behaving in a wild state. Through this action, they unwind the efforts of so many of our committed community trying to restore biodiversity in their own backyards. The NRC very much supports a collaborative and multi-stakeholder approach. Our council is also invested in cat control through our community pest control efforts. And the actions of microchipping, neutering and registration is now needed to combine those voluntary efforts. We're not the only ones alone in this proposal. You've heard there's many hundreds, many thousands of our Whangarei community, individuals wanting change. This is backed by robust science and our national groups. National groups are supportive of regulation and advice, and I refer to the National Cat Plan that's referenced in our submission. And their advice is that mandatory microchipping and desexing are necessary first steps in achieving improved cat welfare and reducing the risks of lost and abandoned cats. And really, when you're talking about microchipping, it's really for many people, this is a one-off cost. So it's not something that has a legacy of a burden of cost for those cat owners. And that's partly why microchipping works. Many cat owners have already taken this option to ensure that those cats can be located if indeed their pet is lost. And it's a tried and proven system promoted by our veterinary professionals. In addition, desexing prevents cats from breeding and is a way of limiting numbers and reducing the risk of problem behaviours. This is also serves to promote the need for responsible cat ownership. We encourage Council to consider the value of taking this opportunity for positive change now. Let's not wait another 5 years for another bylaw review. Given our country has taken the bold challenge of predator-free 250 and communities right across this country are moving that way. Here in Northland, we have hundreds of people involved in protecting kiwi and other wildlife. And action to introduce regulation that helps them and helps our urban communities would be seen as really adding value to our environmental challenges we face at the moment. We also consider that a blanket bylaw would make it easier for cat owners to interpret rather than restricting regulation to urban areas. Loss of biodiversity from wildcats is highest in non-urban areas. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Northern Regional Council, and we encourage Council to consider this combined added value that regulation would serve. Kia ora mai tātou.
Councillor, questions for Councillor
Yeah, through Madam Chair. Thanks, Don, for the submission. My question more relates back to the role of NRC. You're saying that NRC is already investing in the cat control side of things. Going to the fact that we have the same ratepayer base, who do you think should be paying for this, and how should we be paying for it?
I think our approach is one of a multi-stakeholder approach. We each have a legislation that serves different purposes, but a combined approach means combined investment, as Council's here. We have rules that address the issues of wildcats in the environment. We also, are providing funding for community groups investing in wider general pest management control. And we also invest in education. But this bylaw, and particularly mandatory microchipping and desexing, is one that's in the hands of the Whangarei District Council.
Just to continue the question, Chair. Don, I'm still, again, I'm coming back down to how this is to be paid for desexing and things like that, which you're wanting us to put in a bylaw for. How do you see the best way to pay for this would be?
At this point, we haven't considered all of those options. Just that we know that from other district councils, our information is that costs are relatively negligible, and that they're borne over time. They haven't. Some of these other district councils, like Selwyn, Palmerston North, Wellington City Council, have had regulation since 2016, 2018, and costs haven't been so burdensome as those councils being able to manage them under their own rate structure, rate take structure.
Councillor Martin?
Yeah, my question was very similar. Who's going to monitor it and, sort of police it? And somebody has to do that. And therefore there's going to be cost. And since I've been on council, we've had probably hundreds of things that come in that are going to be not much cost and end up death by 1,000 cuts because we continue paying and paying and paying. So we need to sort out. I'm really comfortable with having a group that work together to work this thing through, but we really need to know what the costs are going to be for our ratepayers. Because not that I disagree with it, it's just that I want to have some visibility of what the costs are, and I would have thought there would have been an outline of what those costs could be going forward. So hopefully one of the other speakers will be able to give some numbers on that.
Certainly a consideration, Madam Chair, is the cost of veterinary bills that our community currently has, and any cost of that is done, depending on what option is taken, we would have to weigh up those in that business case.
Any other questions for Don? Thank you very much, Don, for the Council Quality submission. Council's submitter is Judy Flanagan, but he's speaking on behalf of his review. And the submission is in volume 4, page 32. Valerie, thank you. I was into the class.
Okay, kia ora again. I'm representing Whangarei here, and for lady I got to know from her submissions in 2019. So I'm going to read out what she's asked me to read. I wish to participate in person at the hearing for the above bylaw review. I support the Whangarei District Council introducing bylaws to mandate the desexing and microchipping of pet cats. I'm retired and live in Kensington. In 2019, I had a dreadful problem with the large number of cats my next door neighbour on the rental property had. I counted 23 on the lawn at one stage and believed the actual problem was the actual number was much greater, around 40. My day began with the revolting task of collecting all the stinking feces from my well-kept gardens and lawn. A picture attached shows the shovel load, sometimes 2 a day. I mean, this lady's in her 70s, this is what she's having to deal with. I first approached the SPCA, who while sympathetic, were unable to help. Next, Councillor Tricia Cupforth, who was helpful in putting my concerns onto Ryder Russell, Whangarei District Council Health and Bylaws, who arranged for animal control officers and armed guards to investigate and report back. They confirmed the condition breached the bylaw, and on the 11th of April 2019, the letter was sent to the cat owner, giving the owner 30 days to reduce the number of cats. This was ignored, as was the many visits by animal control officers. The problem continued, and it was just horrible. My lifestyle was dreadful, and yet another litter of unwanted kittens was born in my garden. Mid-June, another letter was sent, and also to the landlord, advising the number of cats be reduced to 3, and a formal notice under the Health Act would be issued. All of this could have been avoided if the Whangarei District Council had sensible bylaws in place. I spoke to the Council at the 2019 District Plan Review and requested that all cats be desexed, microchipped and registered, and a limit of 2 to 3 cats per property. To my understanding, nothing has been done. As I stated then, at least 4 councils within New Zealand do have these bylaws, and many more councils have limits on the number of cats allowed. Whangarei District Council needs to introduce bylaws for cats to prevent this problem reoccurring and to protect public health and safety. Cat faeces contains toxoplasmosis, which can be very dangerous for pregnant women and immune-compromised people.
It's going to be very difficult. Questions? Give Valerie 3.
Well, I actually do know when I've been around her house and I've seen her shovel and I've seen the place that was going on. I think there's still about 10 cats next door. But I know that she strongly believes supports mandatory desexing microchipping, because as we all know, a desexed cat doesn't breed and a microchipped cat can be traced to owner. I mean, she's not asking council to pay for this, she's asking the owners to pay for this. That's what we want, the owners pay for things, not the actual council. Another question?
Judy, there is the council will have to pay for the officers who go and check on the compliance for the animals. So there is it's not that the cost of microchipping is a council's responsibility, but the follow-up on it would be. So
I'm not aware of the councils are doing that, they actually have officers. I mean, Thomas and all those at my complaint, and admin, and I've spoken to people on the phone and lots of emails. They said they get 10 complaints a year, they estimate it's 4 hours per complaint, which is 40 hours of admin time a year, and they've had their bylaws since the middle of 2018, the 1st of March 2018. And they see it was also the bylaw as an educational purpose, that when people know that's what's expected, they step up to it. And of course, neighbours can rely on the community to remind them. Okay, thank you very much.
This was next submitted as Wendy Pierce. Wendy submitted on 4, page 45. Welcome, Wendy.
Hello. My name's Wendy Pierce and I'm here to support the mandatory citizenship D16 bylaw. I live on the boundary of New Park. My story is this. My neighbour's cat was roughly 6. They were actually kittens and she tried to put them all away but she couldn't. She kept one white one, set off a chain reaction. That kitten got raised by the same hot cat that cat ended up with that kittens from. Because of that, it became a nuisance because while it was pregnant, it was looking for food, so jumping in my windows, disturbing my bird, I thought it was going to eat me at one point. There was scraps outside, there was it just becomes such a nuisance. And then when we tried to address it with the neighbour, she didn't want to take responsibility for it. Then when the kitten had the bunch of kittens at our neighbours, that's when I called in Judy, who I met through Robert Webb. And because I live on the edge of New Park, I have a vested interest in wildlife. When these nuisance cats are hungry, they're going to go search for food, whether it's, native birds or whatever they can find. So the kittens needed rehoming, and this other neighbour wasn't prepared to give the kittens up. And so 2 of the kittens are somewhere up north, they're white, and so they're prone to cancer, and they're also dead. So they're growing somewhere up north in bush, because, no education on the effect of not de-sexing and the effect of not actually providing a home that is safe for that cat or kittens. So it seems like another chain reaction somewhere else in the country. The tomcats still roam, by the way. Yeah, tried approaching the neighbour about that, and they didn't want to know. SPCA didn't want to know, they only take healthy strays. To me, that seems humane. I don't like seeing cats where I don't like seeing kittens raped by tomcats who are not possessed. So that's inhumane. So that's why I support the citizenship D16 bylaw.
Thank you. Thank you, Megan. Councillors, any questions for you? Thank you very much for your time today and for coming to submit to us.
Thank you.
So I'll bring Susie's submission as in bylaw 21, page 2. Welcome, Susie.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Susie Solfi. I'm the companion animal team leader at Northern Veterinary, working as full-time vet at our 3 clinics across Whangarei. I've been a vet since 2006 and working in Whangarei for over 10 years. Over that period, I've seen an increasing problem around the issue of cat ownership, and in particular, the amount of lost, abandoned and injured cats that we encounter. All too often, members of the public bring in cats that are lost or abandoned to check if the animal has a chip. Sadly, so many of these animals do not have a microchip, so we have no way of reuniting cats with owners. We try posting pictures on our Facebook page and website in hopes of reuniting an owner and cat of owners, but sadly we often draw a blank. The New Zealand Cat Companion Animal Register is a national-wide database of all microchip pets with their owners' details attached. All animal service providers, vets, SPCA, rescue centres, etc. check this database when the cat is brought in, making it really simple to locate owners. The system is an invaluable tool for finding owners, and as such it should be mandatory part of any bylaw change in my opinion. We have seen the benefit of microchipping and the NZ register on many occasions, being able to reunite owners with lost cats because they were chipped. The joy and relief that an owner feels when they receive the news that their cat has been found is very real and a perfect example of how a good system can work well. We sadly also have injured cats brought into us that are not chipped, therefore we cannot locate the owner. Without an owner to make decisions regarding the treatment plan, we can only provide basic medical care such as pain relief, unless we need an animal to be in acute suffering, in which case we may need to euthanize on humane grounds. This scenario often leads to delayed care of an animal, as we have to wait and see if an owner eventuates before making a long-term plan. Not only is this less than ideal for the patients, but it also creates a nuisance, additional workload and cost to our veterinary team, and does not give the owner an opportunity to have input into what happens to their pet. We also see numerous cases of wounds and infections caused by cats fighting one another. Clients regularly bring their own pets into treatment. And although, I cannot claim that every fight is caused by a roaming unnamed male cat, we do get regular reports from clients about problem-entire male cats bullying all other cats in the neighbourhood. These fights cause obvious pain, suffering, and nuisance to our patients, often necessitate surgery under anaesthesia to clean and suture wounds. Unfortunately, cats also harbour the virus, and every time a cat is bitten, the risk that it is present that it may then have contracted feline immunodeficiency virus, FIV, from the other cat. We can't cure feline AIDS, and there are long-term welfare implications for sufferers of FIV, eventually leading to death, potentially. The stress of a cat bullying others can also create nuisance to clients and behavioural problems, such as inappropriate toileting inside the client's house. This is a really difficult, complex issue, and really difficult to solve sometimes, and sometimes clients even reluctantly then opt to euthanize their own cat because of that, with the stress that it places on the family. There are still far too many unusual cats in Whangarei, causing many households to be overwhelmed with cat numbers. This invariably leads to a poorer standard of care for each individual cat. Even the basic needs of regular vet checks, vaccinations, cleaning and worming become impossible when an owner is faced with the costly upkeep of multiple cats. Every animal has a right to a minimum standard of husbandry and healthcare in accordance with the Animal Welfare Act 99. Controlling cat numbers through a mandated neuter program with financial assistance is key to solving this issue. It's clear through conversations I have with clients during consultations that there is a lack of awareness around how young a cat will start breeding. By 6 months of age, a cat is fertile and ready to breed, which is why the specifics around age is such an important part of this proposal. In conclusion, it's clear that Whangarei is experiencing an all too common problem with the local cat population that has negative outcomes for everyone involved. As a vet, I'd like to see a mandate for neutering and microchipping with NZ registration for all cats by 6 months of age. I believe that it would have a positive impact on the health and welfare of all cats and reduce the very real nuisance caused to the public and many professional bodies such as myself and Northern Vet Group. I see absolutely no negative outcomes from this mandate, only improved welfare for the local cat population and reduce stress and workload for us all. I think we work together, it's a very achievable goal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Susie. Councillors, questions? Councillor Whangarei?
Good morning, Chief. Again, thanks for the presentation. Just a quick and easy question for you. Is a vet policy to scan every cat that comes in, even when it comes in with an owner?
It should be. It would be great. We probably should do it more, but I mean, obviously, certainly, anything that's lost or been brought in, that's the first thing we do. Exactly with this disease, but probably something that we quite rightly should do more often, but not that often. I try to check when I do vaccines. I check that chip that we put in a year or two or whatever ago is working, because occasionally the chip can fail, so that's when we get the free chip. So it's we should. That is the general idea, but I couldn't tell you every single time that I would be using that.
And following on from that, when a person comes in with an animal, or a cat, or so saying, is it one of the first things that you do is encourage them to make sure the cat is chipped? So it's the person you haven't seen before?
Again, probably it would be good policy. We can check what, like say, I can't tell if it's chipped while we've done this on our system, so we don't have that conversation there, but if it's not, then it is something we absolutely should be doing. But probably, like I said, I can't do all vet clinics in town, obviously, but probably not at this point done that much, but yeah, we should.
So, if the vet clinics don't have a policy about doing that, how does the council then police that?
well, it's that we're there to then, especially if there's a mandate that this should be happening, or cats should be touched it, then we have more power to split that with dogs. I absolutely, obviously, every dog I say, puppy, are we going to microchip your puppy as part of this primary course of vaccine? And you do realise it's it is a law, it is part of the Council of Laws. I can't say that with a cat because it's not, but if a cat could, I would. That would give me more power to push it a little bit in that respect. Like say, you can sort of give that, sort of reminder to a dog owner at this point, but I can't give that to a cat because I don't know. So that's probably really helpful.
Thanks, Susie. Do you think that you reflect the views of other vet clinics too? I'm not quite sure how big the practices compared to the other practices, but is it a general trend?
I believe so. Throughout my own colleagues, we're about to roughly, off the top of my head, 8 to 9 vet practice within that group, and absolutely, I know colleagues sort of. My ex-colleague now spoke during the year a couple of years ago on the same subject, and so she's now in a different clinic, but she very much echoes my sentiment as well. So no vet wants to have this issue. We definitely all like to see less cat bite abscesses. But we see so many cat bite abscesses all through the door and it's not nice for the owner or more importantly the patient. So anything sort of help.
Any further questions? Susan, thank you very much for your time and submission today.
Thank you.
So the next submitter is Robin Wood. Robin's submission is on in volume 4, page 72. Welcome, Robin.
Good morning. It's just my situation. It comes as a result of my own cat strike. I'm the owner of 4 cats and I've lived at my current address for almost 25 years. And in those 25 years, I have never had to get any concerns about my cat's safety. In the last 18 months, a male cat was living into the neighbourhood, which has not been in sex. I know that because of its territorial behaviour, of beating up my cats, and it's also sprayed in my house a number of times, which is really strong. In the last 18 months, I have had to visit the vet at least a dozen occasions. And each time it's mainly because of abscesses, and every time they shave the cat, cat bite. My current total over the last 18 months is nearing $2,500. There are 2 injuries which you have photos. This one was $1,200. That cat had to stay inside for 6 weeks, drove me nuts. This one was in 2020, that was $650. That had to stay in the room with a collar and it really painful on the mental attitude when you've got cats from home. Apart from the financial distress, it's something I would rather live without. I don't know if you can run cats or pets. I've bought them in the neighbourhood, it's not very nice. Since the last visit for again another cat bite, that cost me another $333 in October of last year. So I did retire as at December, but prior to that I just got so sick of having to leave the house and worry, what am I going to come back to? So apart from my cats being shut in all night, they were being left in until I got home at whatever time of the day. So it's a long time for cats to be kept inside. And I love my animals. I didn't want 4 cats, but I have 4 cats. And it's not fair on them. Cats aren't, unless you've got a pedigree, they're not legally designed to be inside for all that time. So my life has to revolve around the safety of my cats, even when I'm out now, right now. I'm not worried about it, but I never know what I'm going to come home to find. I usually wander around the property to look for cat fur because it's a long-haired cat. So that's kind of my life, and it shouldn't be like that. I should be able to relax when I leave my property. So this nuisance cat holds me and my cats in a perpetual state of dis-ease because even when I'm home, I beat my cat up a couple of weeks ago and I had blood on the duvet and I had a limp, but I didn't have to take it to the vet because it stopped limping because I just get so scared of these bills growing higher and higher, and I'm now only on my pension. I don't have my other income, so I very strongly support the cats being resexed. I know everyone won't follow that. I'm stuck with my situation until this cat dies. I even just at one stage thought, shall I use SPCA some 7 years ago, and cats like this one were euthanized if they couldn't be reclaimed. So I thought that perhaps they were taking over that role, and they said, oh no, we won't be euthanizing it. Your responsibility will be to feed it, house it, go and get it advertised for 6 weeks to see if anybody owns it. And then, what are you going to do with it then? I said, I'll bring it to you to be euthanized. No, we can't do that, and no vet will do that, and I understand that as well. So I was stuck. Screwed.
That's definitely something to work on. Thank you, excellent.
Is any further questions for Robert? Thank you, King, for your submission today. Councillors, just to remind you, the submission is done on page 67 of our agenda, so this is completely. Thank you. Our next submitter is Glenn Miller, who's joining us via Teams. Glenn's submission is in volume 2, page 108. Welcome, Glenn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Long picture. Okay, I support option 3, microchipping and registration, and option 4, mandatory desexing of cats. I would like to see cost control. I realise that it's probably not a council function, but cats need to be treated as they are. Cats are adored all over the world. We want responsible cat owners. We don't want stray cats. Regulations, hang on, I'll just scroll down a bit. So mandatory microchipping and registration, I'm very in favour of that, and I think it needs to happen. Microchipping in particular, because cats do go missing. Cats do wander. People love their cats, and if people's cats are missing, they're very concerned that mandatory microchipping was put into effect. It would mean that lots of cats that are not easily identifiable could be returned to their owners, so that's an advantage. Mandatory desexing of cats. There were too many stray cats. Cats deserve to be treated as pets. Breeders would obviously have to have an exception on the mandatory desexing of cats, but very much for the mandatory desexing of cats. Option 5, non-regulatory measures. I like option 3, I like option 4, but there's good things available in option 5. Funding and education. The SPCA needs to be supported. There needs to be rules such as 3 cats per section, but we need to keep in mind that there are some very, very big sections in Whangarei. If you're getting 1 acre, 2 acre sections, maybe they don't need a limit. of 3 cats for suburban areas, a limit of 3 cats would be good. But yeah, look, I don't want to go on. I don't have a big submission. It's more like we need de-sexing, we need microchipping, we need the cats to be cared for. Strays, unfortunately, strays need to be dealt with as they are dealt with. But with microchipping, we would know that if we picked up a stray and it's got a microchip, it's not actually a stray. It can be returned to its owners. I personally have cats, and I had an experience. I moved from Auckland. My cat went missing for a month. It was never far away. It was simply scared and hiding. And we've got to realise that cats do get scared and they will hide. So not every cat we see thinking it's a wild cat is a wild cat. So yeah, look, I don't want to go on too much, but I just want to support microchipping registration. I think more funding, as I said, needs to be looked at. And any other way, we can keep the cat population down. Any questions? I'm ready for questions now.
Thank you, Glenn. Councillors, for Glenn. You let off the hook, Glenn. No questions.
Aye. Okay, thank you. That was a very short submission. But point, option 3, option 4 are by far the best ways to move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Councillors, our next submitter is Christine Summer, and her submission is in page 29. I believe she's presenting on behalf of the SPCA. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all again. So I've been listening to a number of folks ahead of me, and I don't think I'm going to tell you anything too new or too different. And so I will briefly make the point that SPCA absolutely supports option 5, because we do think it is very important to have multi-stakeholder approaches that prioritize education and engagement and support of people to be more responsible cat owners. And we also acknowledge the challenges laid out in the consultation document. And I have to say, this is probably one of the most thorough consultation documents I've seen on this particular topic. So kudos to whoever is on staff that did that work. We recognize this is a challenging space to be in, but we do think it's prudent to still advocate for the mechanisms of bylaws to complement the other approaches to improving cat management in New Zealand. That being said, we do think cat management is the challenges that occur from the current cat management across New Zealand is a public problem. And I think that the true cost of having a companion cat that's undesexed and roaming is not necessary. That is spread out across many different people, and you're hearing from a lot of them today. So there is a case to make for more policy in this space. A couple points I'd like to point out in addition to our submission. Poorly managed companion cats impact other cats in New Zealand. We know that this can impact the stray cat population. And as Glenn, I believe, before me spoke, not all stray cats are necessarily unowned or don't have a home. It can be very challenging to look at a cat roaming and not realize this is a companion cat. So we have to be careful when we talk about stray cats, because those could easily be someone's companion cat. And that can ultimately feed into feral cat populations. So we do need strategies that can impact positively and humanely across the board all cats in New Zealand. We want to stop the flow of unwanted cats and kittens into the stray cat population. We're limited with the humane mechanisms we can use for stray cat, and effective, I should say. Getting companion cats desexed is one of the ways we know we can do this. And I'd like to point out, When you look at survey data, so Companion Animals New Zealand in 2020 had their most recent report. And I want to point out 2 barriers for important responsible ownership behaviors. One is desexing. Yes, cost is by far and away the greatest barrier, and we work with the council to help reduce and minimize the costs as a barrier to getting cats to sex. But we also know that there are folks who don't think it's important, or they want their cat to have a cat litter before they're desexed, or they just haven't gotten around to doing it. To us, this signals the potential for a bylaw to address this proportion of cat owners where cost is not necessarily the barrier, but is the attitude towards the benefit and value of desexing. Additionally, when we look at microchipping, there are a lot of reasons folks have not gotten their cats microchipped. And cost is about, for a third of survey respondents in Kansas' 2020 report is a problem. However, we also see an attitude issue. It's not necessary. It's not important. Didn't realize it's a legal requirement, which again, it might be in few places. But again, there is different issues going on besides just the cost of microchipping. So we do think that potentially if there are folks who a bylaw may motivate them to get their cats microchipped, and therefore they're willing to do it, they cover the cost of this. We also need to consider registration. Now, registration, yes. Enforcement, yes. These will cost money. But we advocate for monitoring of bylaws. You have to know how many cats are in the Whangarei District if you're going to make any evaluation of any management practices. Registration is one important mechanism to get a good understanding of how many cats live in your district. And from there, you can start assessing whether it's a bylaw mechanism or it is a different option where you are supporting microchipping desexing of cats financially. That registration can help feed back the numbers game we're talking about. So I think that has to be included in the discussions. Another thing that we do consider important is for the scope of cat management groups or advisory groups within the council. Cat management is local problems, and keeping the solutions local will greatly be enhanced by advisory groups that are multi-stakeholder and can give that good local information to these issues. I guess that's my bell, so I can wrap up. I was just about done anyways. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Christine. Councillors, questions, Christine. Councillor Paparillo.
Thank you, Christine. And SPCA, look, I don't think any councillor in here would ever say that anything bad about SPCA and the work that they do. But one of the things I just want to have clarification from you, please. When it comes to cats and animals that come out of the SPCA, do you make sure that every animal is microchipped before it leaves the SPCA?
Yes, I just want to make sure I heard the questions a little bouncing around. That every cat that leaves the SPCA is microchipped. That is our policy, yes.
And when a cat leaves the SPCA, do you also make sure that every one of them is desexed?
That is our policy, yes.
Do you also encourage, this is just really for clarification, do you also encourage the new owner to how they have to look after the animal and to how to deal with the animal?
Yeah, and what I'd like to push is we have enhanced that is appropriate to this conversation. We are integrating a guide for how to keep your cat happy and healthy at home, because we want cats at home where they're much safer and they are less causing problems in the community. So absolutely, we have cat and kitten adoption packs. And again, I should say, we are currently moving towards different adoption systems and support for our adopters. But currently, yes, we do give them advice and support for how to manage their cat.
Thank you. That's all I need to ask. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Councillor Murphy.
No, I'm fine now, actually.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Councillor Cutforth.
Thank you, Christine. I just have a question regarding the SPCA's knowledge of other councils who have put in bylaws, and do you know anything about the impact that's had in terms of the amount of time or energy that councils have had to spend on this issue?
Or has the bylaw been almost sufficient just to start managing the issue?
I wish I could answer that question, and I have been looking for that information myself. I have yet to come across where any kind of information has been collected, because we do want that. The only thing I can say is we see some monitoring in other countries where these types of topics have been monitored, but not in New Zealand. It's still relatively new to even put this type of stuff in bylaws. So I think there is a lack of feedback on it.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, hi. Just a bit more on the line I was taking before. We had a lady, also with the wonderful submission about her cat being attacked. If she was to catch the tomcat doing the damage, SPCA don't want to know about it. Nobody wants to know about it. If she takes it anywhere, they have to pay for the boarding of the cat and then pay for whatever happens in the end. It seems to me that there is a huge gap there that's not been filled. We've identified the problem of cats in an area. We know where they are. She's tried all sorts of things, spending a fortune at the vet, and still the problem exists, and you guys don't really want to know about it, and nobody wants to know about it. She can't afford to do what needs to be done, either de-sex or whatever needs to happen to the cat. So to me, that's the immediate problem that we need to find a solution for now. How would you propose to do that?
Yeah, I understand the concern and the frustration. It is not a high priority for us to take in healthy stray cats. We would be full probably within a very short period of time, and then we cannot provide for our prioritized animals. And these are the sick, the injured, the very old, the very young. It can be a big challenge, and that is one of the reasons we are here today, is because there's no quick fix. I'm not going to promise you tomorrow we're going to fix this issue. Very short term, some of our centers can offer services such as desexing, but Northland is a different place because of stray cats being in the pest management plan. I understand there are rules around releasing a cat that's been desexed. And if it's not owned, then we wouldn't want to put someone in a position where they are not following the rules that are in their area. It is an incredibly challenging problem. This is why we have to get a handle on people desexing their cats. Because it's a longer term strategy, and so it might disappoint you that it's not a short term problem. I don't think warehousing healthy stray cats is a strategy for anybody. It is certainly not a strategy for cat welfare. This is not a humane thing to do to these cats, especially if they are not very socialized to people. This is one of the biggest reasons we will not take them in. This is not humane for this cat. I would not suggest that that's the strategy to do. And again, I don't think that that's one approach will solve any problems. What we have seen is when cats are removed ad hoc from a community, it doesn't necessarily reduce the problem. It might remove that one particular cat, but probably a new tom is going to come right in and take the space of that tom that was removed. So there is an ongoing issue with too many unwanted cats. Cats are roaming, cats are not desexed. So these are all a comprehensive problem that need multiple solutions.
Thank you, Christine. Any further questions? Christine, I'd also like to acknowledge the input that you've had through your submission into the keeping of poultry in urban areas and also keeping of stock. I particularly appreciated the suggestions that were made to improve our bylaw.
Thank you so much. Because I guess we're all talking about cats, but yeah, those are important points we advocate as well for. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you for your time, Christine.
Thank you, everyone.
Our next submitter is Melissa Arslan. Melissa's submission is in volume 1, page 121. Welcome, Melissa. I know you've been part of our process before, sorry, it's on page 21. Just a reminder, it's a 5-minute presentation to your submission. Welcome.
Thank you, Lorena. Everyone, and Happy New Year. It was a great presentation from SPCA. Cats, love them or not? One thing we know for sure is we have a lot of them. Companion Animals New Zealand estimate that there are approximately 1.2 million companion cats throughout the country. And based on this calculation of an average of 1.7 per household, based on a calculation of 1.7 per household. So in 2021, with 43,000 rateable puppies in the district, could equate to 73,000 cats in Whangarei, which when I did this calculation, I was quite shocked and surprised. And with Council's new growth strategy and the forecast in the district, the population to increase by 45% by 2051, we see the addition of another 34,000 cats within the district. Sadly, these figures exclude stray and feral cats, and unfortunately, we know there are a lot of those within the district, but again, we don't know numbers. I believe we are all here today because we know that there needs to be a significant change in the overall management of cats within the Whangarei district. There are way too many cats euthanized each year for various reasons. Not only is this disturbing, but it is costly. We're all well aware of the numerous posts on social media of missing cats, wandering cats, injured cats, and deceased cats. I recently installed a night camera to get a better indication of the number of wild kiwis we have in my backyard. We've become a lot of, which is amazing. But I was very shocked when I started looking at the footage that I actually had 2 cats roaming and living in our back area. We are on a section of 8.5 acres that backs onto the Greenhead Scenic Reserve. My nearest neighbours are quite a distance away, and neither of those cats were theirs. So this is a great concern, and it's now something that I have to manage and deal with because it's basically nothing I can do about those cats running around. Well, I have options, and it's, yeah. I think you know what those are. Council's inclusion of options for cat management as part of this review is timely, important, and very critical. And I appreciate that the implementation of any bylaw will apply to companion cats only. But with an estimated 100,000 cats in the district by 2051, now is the time to adopt and implement these changes. And I believe this can be achieved by promoting and supporting responsible cat ownership by introducing new bylaws mandating desexing, microchipping, and registering of companion cats before the age of 6 months, providing significantly more funding annually to the Whangarei SPCA towards desexing, surgery, and microchipping of cats and kittens in care that are suitable for rehoming, providing significantly more funding to the Whangarei SPCA annual snip and chip programs for cat owners in the district, setting a limit of the number of cats, 2 per household, above which the owner would have to seek permission from the council, to liaise and provide support to grassroots community and conservation groups to working to educate and reduce the number of feral and stray cats. I believe that these changes are in the best interest of cats, cat owners, and the overall community. And I thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you, Melissa. Councillors, questions for Melissa? Let's start with one. You're suggesting setting a limit of 2 cats per household. What led to that number?
I think it was just from all the reading that I've done, it seems like that would be an acceptable number what's being used. I mean, personally, I would say 1 is sufficient, but I think I'm just going with what the general consensus is on that particular issue.
Thank you.
And I think, yeah, I think we need to do something. We need to do now. It's really important that this problem seems to be increasing significantly. And even on our social media page, like it's daily, there's cats that are, we had a lady in Clouds Bay who was her cat was wandering, and waited weeks at a time and would come back, and then it turned out she's got 5 cats and they all want. I mean, it's just not
Yes. Does any other questions for Melissa? Thank you very much for your
Thank you very
submission.
much. Have a lovely day, guys.
Good luck with eliminating those. Yes. Next submission is Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer's submission is in volume 3, page 121. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you very much, you guys, for doing all this. I'm really here on behalf of Greenhead Conservation Trust. I think you all are familiar with Greenhead Conservation Trust. And I'm here really to present a short video that was produced by Alan Willits, who's our project manager. I'd also like to acknowledge that Councillor Innes was not involved in any way in the discussions about this or in the producing of this short presentation I have.
Thank you for that clarification.
And I'd also like to give Adam, say a few words about Adam's level of experience. He's been involved in predator control operations and conservation within New Zealand for about 20 years now. So he has very extensive experience both on the North and South Island. He's well schooled in this, he's well experienced in this area and dealing with, and he's been, hugely responsible for the wonderful work that has happened in the trust over the last 7 years that he's been there. So in terms of flourishing bird numbers and some reserve. So anyway, without further ado,
my name is Adam Willits. I am the Head Ranger Project Manager for the Greenhead Conservation Trust out at the Whangarei Heads. I work for the Greenhead Conservation Trust as a contractor, and I'm here to submit today on behalf of the Trust on this cat hearing in the proposed bylaw changes. The Trust has been restoring the Greenhead Scenic Reserve since 1998, with many rare and threatened species returning and breeding, flourishing in and throughout the reserve and some surrounding areas. This amazing achievement has cost that community at the Whangarei Heads many thousands and thousands of volunteers' hours over the years. And it's a very important investment for this community. The mahi of the Trust is supported by a large group of landowners, residents and ratepayers. Large groups like the Department of Conservation, Ngāti Wai, Iwi, Apu, Pānu, and other large conservation groups around the country. Cats, feral cats in particular, and dumped cats are a huge threat to the New Zealand endemic wildlife. They're an apex predator. They eat just for the fun of it. They hunt just for the fun of it, even when their stomachs are full. Stomachs of cats have been found to have many native species inside them and have been cut open. And any cat can kill them. They're a huge threat to the games that have been made, and a direct threat to that hard community work that I talked about. Desexing, limiting household numbers of cats, microchipping and education will reduce those unwanted cats being released into the wild, being dumped, and even around our domestic areas. BHCT, or Greenhead Conservation Trust, fully supports the facts, risks and issues raised in a very good, well-written submission by the Kiwi Coast. This cat bylaw submission. As predator-free movement grows and gains momentum around predator-free Whangarei and predator-free Northern and predator-free New Zealand, just really needs this proposed bylaw change to come into effect and to help this amazing project that a lot of New Zealanders, the big social change that's coming on, really helped that to come into effect. So with all that in mind, the ACT hopes that the common sense will prevail as the submission to change the CAT bylaw in Whangarei is passed without hesitation by the Whangarei District Council, and that we can get on and have our beautiful taonga species survive without that threat of unwanted dumb cats. And the less cats are killed, and it helps with, financially with the issues around unwanted cats as well. Pretty much an all win-win situation, really. So thank you for listening, thank you for your time, thank you for your support. Kia ora
This is our next submission is Ian's Fisher. Ian's submission is in volume 9, page 121. Welcome, Ian.
Good morning. I'd just like to read out my submission that I prepared. It's fairly brief because I thought that we're only going to get a 35 minutes to present it, so it's quite short. In general, I'm in support of the key elements of the review of the Animal Bylaws by the Whangarei District Council. My submission on the Animal Bylaws and in particular relate to the Local Government Act, Section 145 and Section 146, cat management. The Act sets out general obligations of the owners. Section 145 ensures that the animals do not cause nuisance to any other person, ensures that the animals do not cause a risk to public health and safety, ensures that the animals do not damage any property belonging to any other person. Section 146 of the Local Government Act mandates the desexing and microchipping of cats. The two sections under the Local Government Act have not been performed by the Whangarei District Council, and it's time they would. This is one of the Whangarei District Council obligations to their ratepayers. Please note that the cats roam freely every night around our area, defecating on vegetable and flower gardens and lawns, also spraying urine on lawns, vehicle tyres, and ruined gas barbecue with their urine stains. Under Section 145, the Local Government Act, this is a nuisance and a public health risk that can't be avoided with management. Section 146 with the microchips and owners can be made accountable for the nuisance and health risk they cause. On the submission for the last feedback on support of the education measures and the funding, partly by the SPCA, subsidies for the desexing and microchipping, and the use of pays by the animal owners. Microchipping with registration and desexing would not be achieved through voluntary compliance and education without financial consequences to the cat owners, the same as dog owners have. In my opinion, there should be a limit to the number of cats per property. Configuration options 2, 3 and 4 combined limits the numbers of cats per property, mandatory desection, microchipping and registration. The Whangarei District Council has contracted controlling dogs and employs a rat control officer that controls the control of cats could come under this control also. I see no reason why the Whangarei District Council could not ask assistance from the Northland Regional Council as they have staff employed in a similar role in controlling animals. The two councils are supposed to be working for the benefit of Whangarei and Northland ratepayers. That's what's good.
Thank you, Ian. Councillors, questions for Ian? Really appreciate your submission today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Submitted Stephen Wilson, being sworn in by Teams, submission number 4, page 25. Welcome again.
Down here.
Can you unmute? Thanks, Dean.
Oh, there had to be someone, didn't there?
Yeah.
Kia ora, koutou rau rangatira mā. Thanks for hearing me today. I'm Dean Bajent Mercer, the Northland Conservation Manager for Forest and Bird, and I've worked on conservation issues here and overseas for 26 years. I'd just like to start by saying how happy Forest and Bird is to see the Whangarei District Council front-footing the issue of cats in the district. I've read the submissions that you've received, and it's clear from the testimonies that many of the submitters are in desperate need of rules to manage cats. Forest and Birds is in full support of using non-regulatory approaches in the first instance, so we support council funding clip and snip events and microchipping days. However, this only reaches those that are responsible cat owners, and these are the people who aren't usually creating the problems. So we ask for clear and empowering rules and regulations, clear and empowering regulations for the council's enforcement officers, so that when a nuisance occurs, officers have the power to actually reduce the nuisance. Currently, for example, when cats aren't microchipped and registered, officers don't have any way of knowing who owns the nuisance cats, thereby making their ability to abate the nuisance much more difficult. Furthermore, research shows that return to owner rates for cats that are microchipped and registered is 20 times higher than for cats that are not microchipped and registered. So we urge councillors to pass a 3-cat limit per household rule in this bylaw as well. This position is already a compromise for Forest and Bird, as some of our members would prefer fewer per household. An example of nuisance presented by a submitter we've probably heard about earlier today, that their neighbourhood had upward of 20 cats causing untold problems in the neighbourhood. Many examples of nuisance have been presented by submitters in this process, whereby a 3-cat limit would have gone a long way to have abating that nuisance. As presented in our original submission, cat number limits are being utilised by many councils across the country. We would like to emphasise that we're not asking Whangarei District Council to become the cat police. We're not asking that council officers go door to door to find out household cat numbers, but a 3-cat rule will be essential for when genuine complaints are made for enforcement. The Wellington City Council made a mistake of passing a cat microchipping bylaw alone, which has meant that enforcement officers can only return cats, even if people house a great numbers of cats causing nuisance. Please don't accidentally create this loophole. We strongly encourage the council to adapt all 3 of Forest and Bird's requests, that mandatory desexing and microchipping of cats over 4 months old, and also a 3-cat limit per household. I'd like to end by reiterating that implementing cat regulation is not a big deal. Many councils are doing exactly this as their animal bylaws come up for review. Last year in Taupo, for example, the council proposed nuisance regulation after hearing the concerns of its residents. Not only did 92% of submitters support the proposed regulation, many called on the council to do more, in a similar vein to what Forest and Bird has proposed in its bylaw submission to you, that is compulsory microchipping, desexing and a 3-cat limit. We also encourage the council to employ a part-time cat enforcement person. Even a role for 2 days a week can make the difference across the Whangarei district. Cat regulation is clearly an important issue in Whangarei, and we encourage you to show some clear leadership on the matter with clear new rules. Kia ora, thank you. I'm happy to answer questions.
Good, Dean. Councillors, questions for Dean?
very good.
Dean, just can I also thank you for the specific suggestions that you made in your submission as to strengthening the wording. It's always very helpful for us to have clear indication of what you would prefer to see in the bylaw. So thank you for that. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you. Just one question, Dean. You made reference to in Wellington, you said they created a loophole, and I didn't quite catch what you said. I think you said that they...
Sorry, it was an accidental loophole where Wellington City Council had passed a bylaw making microchipping mandatory, but not desexing. It was microchipping but not registration. So you couldn't tell how many cats were in the household.
Oh, okay, right, I'm with you. Okay, thank you. Yep, gotcha. Thanks for your submission, Dean.
You're welcome. Okay, have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Councillors, next submitted is Robbie Jones. Robbie's submission is in volume 1, page 174. Thank you, Robbie. Welcome.
First of all, I want to make a moment on the volunteer for Arts and Women in Whangarei Coastal Clean Floods. Fully support the submission put in by Dean Rachel on behalf of Arts and Women. I live in Whangarei, and each year I spend many hours in the Ruakaka Wildlife Refuge watching the living cats and chicks. The breeding period lasts for approximately 5 months. October to February until the chicks are fledged. This year, I was notified that cats in the irritating dog camping ground include rare, that's the oyster catchment. I emailed Dog to find out if they were aware of the problem. Dog replied that they had cat traps in the campground and used to caught about 2 to 3 cats per fortnight. Dog believes the reason for this high number in the campground was that cats and chickens were regularly dumped on the lay-by situated on State Highway 1 close by. These abandoned animals are left to fend for themselves because they're unwanted. They're starving and they live short, brutal lives. If they do manage to survive, they become feral breeding animals themselves and therefore compounding the problem. I'm asking the Whangarei District Council to show some leadership and pass a bylaw that all cats over 4 months of age are neutered, microchipped and registered, but there is a 3-cat limit in any household. This will help protect our native birds and other native wildlife that the unwanted cats live on in order to survive. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Robbie. Councillors, questions for Robbie? Thank you for your very clear submission this morning, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, our next submitter is Whangarei Sullivan. Whangarei's submission is in volume 2, page 70. Welcome, Whangarei.
Okay. All right, so I'm Whangarei Sullivan. I'm from Kiwi Coast, I'm a Kiwi Coast coordinator. And we are here to support happy, safe and healthy domestic cats cared for by their humans. Cats should be here and having a cuddle, not in the traps that people are putting out to keep their forests and wildlife safe. We're asking that WDC go for mandatory desexing of all cats before 6 months of age, mandatory microchipping and recording of all pet cats, limiting cat numbers to a maximum of 2 per household, and we've added supporting community, hapu and EV-led efforts to eliminate feral and stray cats from WDC reserves. Who's Kiwi Coast? Just really quickly through this, I've got an annual report if you want to dive into that. Basically, we are the organisation that supports and enables communities, EV and hapu projects throughout Northland. 190 entities currently linked in, working over 225,000 hectares. And the whole goal, helping our native forests and wildlife to thrive, One of those jobs is clearing out all the pests that's killing those things all the time. So, kiwi chicks, of course, very vulnerable to cat predation. There we go. Wrong button. Oh, where'd that come from? Let me back up. So yeah, kiwi chicks, very vulnerable to predation by cats. It's the smaller birds that, of course, very heavily get predated. And we would have Tāteki brown teal, the fourth rarest Labyrinth duck in the world, flourishing if it wasn't for the cat predation, especially out of Whangarei to the kaka. Happier cats means safer wildlife. So how do we get there? What can the council do to support this? The dispensing of kittens. So we don't have too many kittens. Stray cats and feral cats all come from domestic cats that get dumped or that wander or get lost. Once again, cats should be at home having cuddles, not being caught in the traps. All these posts on Facebook of cats going missing. Let's get them home faster by the microchipping and recording. Let's not have dolphins dying from toxoplasmosis, which comes from cat poo. Get the cats home faster. We don't need scenes like this with 20 cats per household. Cats are solitary animals, they're apex predators. They don't want to live in conditions like this. And of course, people dump these cats, and where they end up on our trail cams where we try and investigate what traps are doing. They go to the forest, they get left to fend by themselves. Someone's got to clean that up. One example, last year or the year before, we had 6 kittens dumped on Mount Tiger Road. One got, in the middle of winter, in the cold and the rain, one got hit by a car. We managed to live catch 3 of them, 2 in need of court. Now we're trying to deal with them in the forests. Nothing else hunts the cats. They're an apex predator. So cats that are dumped or lost or that roam, somebody else has to clean that up. Please support and continue to support the good work going on in your reserves where people are cleaning up the pests that are out there. Every year I collate all the pest control data. Over the last 8 years, 5,850 feral cats trapped. That's people cleaning up those dumped and unwanted cats. Happier cats, safer wildlife. And once again, just what we're asking for. Because you've got the power to stop this at its source. Before the cats get lost, before they go feral and have to fend for themselves. Any questions?
Thanks for that. Just a quick one. So I see some of the earlier submitters were proposing it 4 months rather than 6. I take it you would support that as well.
Yeah, sure. I think it's before 6 months of age and then generally start breeding design in December. Yeah, go for 4 months if you want to. Sounds good.
So, just thinking about our boundary with Animals District Council, and I'm not up to speed actually, but just listening to you and I'm thinking about all the work that you're doing kind of around that boundary and the crossover. I wonder where the Animals is up to. I'm going to have to go on a lot. But I'm just interested in what's your perspective on how we actually need to work with our neighbouring councils to make sure we're working together.
Yeah, I think that's a real key point. So we do need to be working with Whangarei and the Whangarei District Councils to support them to adopt good bylaws as well. Often the Whangarei District Council is leading the way with these sorts of things. So things that we're seeing around dog registration being linked to dog-free subdivisions, for example, the other councils are still catching up with you guys on that one. So once again, I hope you guys do show that leadership, and then that enables us to go to the other councils and say, hey, look what WDC have done, you guys can do it too.
Yes, sure. Any other questions for no? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Very good submission, right?
Thank you. See you again.
That was the final 2 submitters that we had on our schedule are not likely to be attending. So we just had the final 2. Whangarei Cat Rescue, Samantha Kelly is not able to attend today, and we haven't been able to contact Mike Eagles. So I would say that that is the end of the submissions that we'll be hearing today. And a reminder, of course, that this is not a decision-making forum. And at some point, we will be progressing the bylaw, but we didn't set the dates for that. We do have, as you aware, some staff role changes. So there are some questions in that area, but we intended to pay. I think they haven't gone this year. The schedule that the updated schedule, yeah, in the agenda there was a longer schedule, but that will be contacted, and my understanding is, these were the ones who wished to be heard today, or could be heard today, maybe another things coming to people's agendas. So that brings us to the supplementary item on our council agenda today, the item 4.2, an emergency grant to Whangarei District Council to assist the Tongan community with relief efforts. And some of the board members joining us via Teams. Councillor Martin has moved the recommendation, and there are lots of hands up to support. Councillor Deming is seconding this. The recommendation is that the council approves the allocation of $7,000 to Whangarei Pacifica to cover the costs of a shipping container. And 2, notes that this expenditure is unbudgeted. Councillor Martin, over to you.
Well, we've all seen the devastation from the tsunami in Whangarei and other places up our coast. And I've been family focused from my son-in-law from Tom, and it's shocking. And if we can do anything here, we should be doing it. I think it's humane and it's the right thing to do. I hope everyone will support it. Thank you.
Further discussion. Councillor Deming.
I can only second Councillor Martin's plan, which I have done, and it's something that needs to be needed. It's not something that we can consider over the next month or more, which we need to get out there and be as helpful as we can. And my piece.
I don't have an issue with it per se, just a question as to, as it's unbudgeted funding, do the staff have any idea where it will budget from, or is it because from community funding somewhere, or where will the funding come from? I have an issue with it.
Somebody able to
give us some feedback on that.
It will simply come from underspends in other lines. So we can't identify where it will come from, but we know that there is enough flexibility within the budgets to do that for just $7,000.
Just a question, because I'm sure there would be lots of people who would like to help and make delivery containers.
And I was wondering, maybe our staff, our communication staff might be able to support the church once they have the container. Maybe we can support them through our Facebook pages or another way, asking for donations to help others. I'm sure many of us would have things that we would like to do.
Sandra.
I'm sure that can happen. Yes.
Again, I'm quite happy to support this motion. I was more thinking about the respect of the container itself. I know that Cobra already producing producing a container themselves. Is this the same container or is this a separate container?
Through the chair, this is a separate container. This is the cost of a container for us to fund for the Whangarei community.
Okay. And on that, Madam Chair, with the separate container, I'm guessing that's this is mostly going to be filled by the Tongan Church, or is it going to be filled by the community themselves?
Through the chair, the Tongan Church is coordinating efforts. So I'm sure there will be community donations, but this is from the Tongan community themselves.
In that case, then, Chair, I'd just like to appreciate what Councillor Murphy's already said. I think it's important that we'd be able to support it, and if possible, we'd be able to advertise where we can to help them out.
Further discussion. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to support the cost of the container. But what assurance can we have that once the container gets here, it's going to go into a system that is organised and will be delivered to the people where it's really needed and it will be effective?
So we've been assured by the Tongan community that they have this is their families that they're in contact with, so they do have the networks and the ability within Tonga for it to be distributed.
So this is not through a formal aid thing; it's through the families of the church here in Whangarei.
And through the church network into Tonga, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Reid.
With the motion, Your Worship.
That's a procedural motion, that the motion be put. Seconder for this procedural motion. You can't second it when it's spoken. I'll put the procedural motion, which is that the motion be put. Those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. That brings us to a close of our meeting. I'm disappointed that I didn't have a chance to acknowledge our committee. However, that's the way it goes. So, thank you everybody for your attendance at our meeting today.